into the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh! Get it.
What?
Get it.
What y'all know about this?
What y'all? We can just go take it back. I just want to do an old school dance like
Fresh
this.
Fit, son. Pastors they just don't understand, son.
Get it.
What's up, everybody? This is Are You the One After Show, episode 6, Parental Guidelines. I am your host, Lem Gonsalves. I'm here with my B-boy in crime, Mr. KJP, Kevin John Peters. What's up, boy?
What's up, Lim? I'm Kevin. So glad to be here. You remind me of heaven. When we're together, we're open like 7-Eleven. That's right. I'm gonna just stop.
Yeah, it's not right there. It's not right there. Before it gets like way whack. Right.
You're the poet, not me.
Yeah, it's all good. All right, man. So let's just jump into this. This was an interesting episode, I must say. There was some surprises in this episode, especially getting to the end with the matchup ceremony. I did not expect that happening, but we're gonna get all to that. Also, we do have a special guest calling in later on, Miss Ashley Hall, and I'm excited to talk with her about the episode and about her stint on Are You the One? So it starts off as it is with all of them as they're trying to figure out what's going on with their matches. Yeah. So they got 3 matches in the previous episode, which was really one new one because there were already 2 made, and so they're kind of flabbergasted at this point. They think they know what they're doing. They obviously don't. They're trying to figure out what's going on. You have Brianna, who's still reeling about not being with her match, not being a match with Curtis. Curtis is the one that got matched previously and had to go, and now she's, still heartbroken about that. People are kind of trying to figure out, well, are you my match? Maybe you. What do you think at this point they're thinking right now?
I think at this point, it's kind of back to the drawing board. Obviously feelings, emotions have been established. But I think, honestly, this episode seemed like there is more confusion on who was matched with who or who was supposed to be with who. Like, it really just seemed that there was just a lot of uncertainty going on in there. And even as I was watching it, I wasn't shocked by we'll get to the results later on. Right. But there's just some interesting dynamics going on there.
Absolutely. So,
yeah, with that being said, I didn't really see. There was one connection I saw, and which I guess we'll get to later when we start talking about the dates that they go on. But yeah.
It was. My thing is this. Okay, we talk about this. We've been doing this after show for this whole time the season's been going on. I remember watching last season, and I do kind of these comparisons, back and forth. And I feel like last season, it seemed like they had a lot better focus on what they were doing as far as finding their match. This season, for whatever reason, I don't know if they just, they're following the heart, but at the same time, I think their heart is confusing them because, yeah, they think they're matched with somebody and they're totally off. Yeah. So I feel like I can see why, some of these people may be single, to this point because they do pick wrong, or it's a situation where they really just don't know how to play this game good, because it is a game at the end of the day. They're trying to match up and find, their perfect match and ultimately to split $1 million. So I feel like either their heart is pulling them the wrong way or their mind is pulling them wrong. Either way, one of those should be working, and I feel like neither of them is really giving them what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, I think it goes back to what you said earlier when you started off by saying that, what is their objective of the show? To find love or to find money. And I think one of the things I thought was interesting, which we're going to get into, but when they were being interviewed by the parents, and one of the parents asked, I believe it was Leighton, are you here for the money or here to find you know, to find love. And I think he said the money.
It wasn't Leighton, but yeah,
I forgot who it was.
It was actually John.
It was John.
John,
That's right.
yeah, said he's here for the money.
But he was here. So I think, you know, with that being said, maybe ultimately that's some of their objectives, and that's why you don't see some of these, you know, them clicking or finding their love because they're there for the wrong thing.
And then it's messing the whole thing up.
Exactly.
Well, my thing is, if they're not there for love, then if they're there for the money, then play the game right. You know, you're not, whatever it is, it's not working.
Exactly.
So you're breaking hearts, and then you're still not getting any repercussion for it. You know what I'm saying? So let's get into the challenge. The challenge kind of came a little early this episode, and the challenge actually was interesting because it involved the family members of the girls on the show. And so it was funny because they got really excited as soon as you know, it was announced that they, you know, were going to go ahead and do that. Of course, Ryan is the host. He announces, okay, your folks are here, and they're just like, yeah, because I think, you know, it's a piece of home. You know, some of them had their mother there, some of them had their father there. It was one parent. I think it was your girl had her grandmother there.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting to kind of see how the girls were, you know, with their parents there. So what happened was they kind of were, it was kind of like very intimidating. It's kind of a firing squad because they had all the parents kind of lined up
at a hot
then,
seat.
Right. And then like a seat right in the middle. And the parents basically got to ask each of the guys individually questions that they had, and some of them were a little racy. Like one of them asked, have you ever used the boom boom room? And I think that was Leighton that was asked that
question,
right.
Actually.
Yeah, but Leighton specifically, he was like, yeah, I did. You know, one of them was asked, do you watch porn? Like
internet porn.
Right. And he was like,
Alex, I think it was.
Yeah, it was Alex. And he was like, yeah. Like it was just, I mean, some of those questions were very intrusive for, you know, just meeting somebody. So it was interesting to see where the guy's going to tell the truth. You know, of course, the girls got to watch, you know, all of this going on. So they could kind of see. And then they were in turn learning, you know, a lot from these guys that maybe they didn't share before because it didn't come up. So you're in this situation, you're in this hot seat, you're asking these questions. How are you feeling at this point? Do you think you can pass the test? You're intimidated?
Intimidated. You know, I think you summed it up best when you said it was a firing squad, because I looked at it as just that, an interrogation room. And you know that they're going to ask you all kinds of personal, intrusive, you know, just you know, questions to find out about you. Now, you don't know what questions they're going to ask, but you know it's going to be intense. So I was actually shocked at some of the questions. I was actually appalled for some of the guys that were getting asked those questions. Like, hold on a second. You don't know I'm like that?
Right. I will say I did side with the guys on this because, again, they're sitting here. They're you know, playing this game just like the girls are. These are their daughters. And I think I don't think it was quite fair to, you know, them be the one to ask those questions in that manner. You know what I'm saying? Because it does put them in a predicament. It's like, okay, these are personal questions. Do I answer it truthfully? Because if I do, then I may look like, you know, some kind of way. But then if I lie, then I'm not telling the truth, you know, because in general, you wouldn't be asked these questions right out the gate. So I think it was a kind of a predicament they put them in. But, you know, it seemed like the guys kind of handled it for the most part pretty well. It didn't seem like anybody was way off the mark. The second part of that challenge was after all the questions were asked and they kind of can view all of the parents there, then they got a chance. They had 60 seconds to kind of pair up basically the pictures with the girls. So they had to match them up, you know, perfectly. And then whoever got the most matches, the top three, were going to pick the dates. So that was kind of interesting because if you think about it, I mean, I can't see it being too hard because I think looking at some of the parents, they look just like them. They look just like, you know, their parents. Right, exactly. And so I don't think that was too hard, but I think some of them you might have thought like, I don't know, you know. So I think the most of them got like 7. There was a lot of them that got 6, you know, out of it. So I think it's fair to say that it wasn't too hard as long as they were paying attention. I think there was one guy that was like way off. I can't remember who it was, but he like paired up, like it didn't even look right. Like people were laughing, like, yeah, he was just like, what are you doing? Like, is she adopted?
He put a black girl with a white mother.
Right.
Like, how is this working out?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
He was probably, you know, still affected from the firing squad. That's
maybe,
what it was.
Maybe he was a little daunted.
Mentally taken off.
Exactly. So the winners ended up being John, Alex, and Dario. So they were the ones that won. And John ended up picking Jasmine. Alex ended up picking the female Alex, which we have not seen at all. I mean, I don't remember her talking at all. I think the only time I think I heard her talking was at the matchup ceremony when she had to pick somebody.
Yeah,
that was it. And then
she has a voice.
Yeah, I was like, wow. And Dario ended up picking Brianna. So I thought they were pretty good pairings. I was interested to see the both Alexes together and kind of how that was going to come up because again, we haven't really seen much from the female Alex in regards to like, you know, her personality. We haven't heard her talk or who she was connected to. So I was interested to see kind of how that dynamic was going to go. After that, the parents kind of hung around a little bit. So that's where it kind of got a little crazy because here are the parents now kind of, you know, corresponding and talking with, you know, the guys that are there and kind of getting to know them with their daughters. And so I thought it was interesting to kind of see, you know, what happened. First, before that even happened, Christina's stepdad, he's like having fun. He's drinking with the guys, you know, they're pounding whatever. It looked like energy drinks. I don't know exactly what it was. But they were pounding them and he was like winning and he was just kind of doing some male bonding with them, which I thought was cool. Christina's dad tells her, basically, he has a heart-to-heart with her. And he tells her to stay away from Brandon. Now, Brandon was the one that they, you know, were hot and heavy at the beginning. They found out they weren't a match. They were kind of devastated, but they've still, you know, been friends or whatever. And he has a heart-to-heart with her, and he tells her to stay away from him. You know, just leave him alone. And I thought that was a good piece of advice because, again, it's almost like, you know, what I know I've been preaching. Kind of in these previous episodes when we've been doing this, and it was just interesting to see kind of the parent kind of step in and say, you know, kind of be a voice of reason, you know, and what's going on. Speaking of parents and their daughters, we actually have a special guest here. Miss Ashley Hall is on the line. Ashley, are you there?
Yes. Hi.
What's up, Ashley? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh man, we are so excellent to have you. I am your host, Lem. I'm here with my boy Kevin John Peter. Say what's up to her, Kevin.
What's up, Ash? What the deal, girl? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
We're so excited to have you. We're so excited to have you. We were just actually talking about as you were calling in. Yeah, came up. We were talking about when the parents kind of came in on this episode, and I kind of wanted to start off with you're there. And your dad, you see your dad kind of come in. What are you thinking at that point? Like, what kind of emotions are running through you? What is racing through your mind at that point?
Oh my gosh! When I saw my dad, or when Ryan told us that our parents were going to be there, I knew for sure that they brought my dad because both my parents are very supportive and they do everything that they can for me, but I'm a daddy's girl, and so I knew for sure they would bring my dad. And so when I actually saw him on the screen, I was freaking out because, I mean, like, I'm sure you know, like, we are not able to talk to anybody outside the house.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, I've been there for however long, and I haven't spoken to a family member. I don't know what's going on in the outside world, and so, you know, to see him and to see like somebody from home was oh my gosh, I cried and I was excited and it was the best surprise ever.
That is awesome. I mean, we were mentioning it looked like everyone was excited. All the girls were excited to kind of see their family members, and we were just looking at it as you know, it was a piece of home for you all because you had been sequestered. And I know that, you know, the way they do these tapings, you're not allowed to talk to anyone. So I can imagine the feeling. I kind of want to bring you back to kind of the third episode that we watched, and you kind of dropped the bombshell of the V card, and it was just interesting to see kind of everyone's reaction. Two-part question. First of all, what was the reason by telling everybody that? And then two, we kind of saw what happened on TV, but I would like to know what the real reaction from the guys were.
Well, okay, so my reasoning for like telling the boys is it's always one of the first things that if I feel like something's going somewhere with a guy, I make sure they know. I wear my purity ring mostly not just because I'm like, hey, I'm a virgin and I can flash it. It's more of like a tool so that boys can be like, oh, hey, what's that? Because girls that usually wear rings on that finger it's either a promise ring or engagement ring.
Right.
definitely not a promise ring to another guy. It's a promise to myself and, you know, that I want to stay a virgin, and a promise to my future husband that I'm waiting for him. And so that's like kind of my tool that I use to have guys like ask me, and or sometimes like it just will come up, like I'll just be like, yeah, like you know, this is what I believe. You know, I don't judge other people that are having sex, but I personally just think that it's going to be so special. I'm sorry.
I was joking. Go ahead. No, I just want to say.
I think it's going to be so special for the guy that I do marry someday, that he knows that I have kept him in mind, even though I don't know who he is, and kept him in mind and wanted to respect him by not being with other people. So it's a choice that I you know, wanted and have thought about pretty much my whole life. So the boys' reaction, I was expecting it to be like a little surprise. Now, I did not know about Pratt. I did not know that he had said that. So that was a surprise for me.
You saw that live? Oh, okay. Well, we watched it.
She found out when we found out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so surprised when I saw the episode, and I was like, what? Like, but, you know, it's you know, whatever.
Right.
But honestly, like, every single one of the boys expressed to me how much they respected me, how much, you know, they thought it was cool, and, like, they were like, you know, good job. Like, I would love to have a girl like you. But then at the same time, I got a lot of the whole, that's so awesome and actually super cool, but I don't know if I can be with a virgin. And I expected to run into that just because it's a lot to handle, because I'm sure a lot of guys that think that girls that are like that are virgins that are like not necessarily wanting to wait, like they're just kind of like a virgin because they haven't had sex yet. They probably think like what Pratt thought, which was they're going to be like a stage 5 clinger.
Right.
But in my case, I am not looking for the guy to lose it to. I'm looking for the guy that deserves it. Wow. So that was, it was hard, but at the same time, I had to keep reminding myself what my worth is and how much the guy, whoever it being my match or whoever, just deserves so much more, and I deserve so much more. So
now, Ashley,
that's what I kept.
I wanted to ask you. You know, well, first of all, I want to commend you on taking that vow, and you know, I think that's highly, highly admirable and commendable and respectful. And honestly, if there were more girls like you, there'd be a lot less STDs in the world. So, I totally tip my hat to you. Now, you know, seeing that you are, you know, obviously a virgin, and you're in a house where you have a boom boom room where, you know, sex obviously is emphasized on pretty much every episode, and there's a lot of just sexual activity going on in there. Do you feel pressured at all to, you know, even if not to have sex, but to be physical with other men in there in order to build a connection or to establish a connection with somebody else?
Oh, definitely. I mean, obviously sex, like, never crossed my mind to get a guy's attention. You know, making out or like stuff like that. I mean, it's hard because you don't.
Hello? Ashley, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you were kind of breaking up a little bit.
Sorry. But I was just saying that, like, you definitely, like, have to, like, make yourself noticeable, but not, like, not throw yourself out there, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, like, I definitely, like, had to, like, you know, flirt, but not do it in, like, a way where it's, like, you know, let's go to the boom boom room and see for a match.
Right.
So, I mean, it's definitely tempting. I mean, I said that in the 3rd episode. I mean, even with not being in the house, you know, in everyday life.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm tempted can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry. In everyday life, like, you know, tempted to do more. I mean, never go all the way, but, you know, there's always temptation. So
there is always.
It was definitely tempting to, for me in the house, but And there's a lot of good-looking boys. Trust me, there's a lot. They're all very attractive.
Well, I'm sure that can say the same for you. I think you're a very attractive woman, and I think you know it is very. I've even said I'm like, I think Ashley, that's my girl right there. You know, I think she's one of the best looking women. I'm not even saying that because you're online. I've said that. My boy Kevin can attest to it.
He did.
But I do want to kind of bring you back to this particular episode that we watched, and there was a point, and I thought it was kind of funny that your dad kind of says all the guys look questionable. Do you like agree with him in that, or I mean, because that was his kind of observation. I don't know, like is he that's his personality? Is he kind of joke around a lot?
Well, no, okay, so my dad is probably not as harsh on boys as my mom is. My mom is more of like the, I don't think you're good enough for my daughter, basically. But my dad likes to joke around with like my boyfriends or, my guy friends. But for him to be like, they're all questionable, I definitely we were right on point with each other. Like, I hadn't even told him anything yet. And he had no clue, obviously, anything that had gone on in the house. But he knows the type of boys that I've usually dated, and he knows the type of boys that I usually go for. And so, like, hearing all this stuff that these guys are talking about, like John saying he's only here for the money, and, like, Garland saying that he doesn't know how many girls he's been with, these are red flags for my dad.
Obviously.
And I think about 4 boys said they'd been to the boom boom room. So my dad is like, okay, this is not my daughter's match.
I think any dad would have been like, all these guys are questionable based on some of the questions that they were answering. So I don't blame them whatsoever. I want to kind of it looked like going back to the 3rd episode, you were picked by Leighton for the date, and were you starting kind of to build something with him? Because it seemed like at that point he was kind of your speed. You guys are both from the South, you're from Texas, and it seemed like there was maybe something there, but of course he went a different direction. Did you have feelings for him at that point, or was that kind of you said right did you
okay, well, whenever Leighton and I went out on our date, like, I definitely was like, okay, like, I can definitely see some things that are like that add up with what I believe and what things that I've asked for. But then you also see another side of Leighton that you're like, okay, I'm not really sure if this is what I am about. Because, I mean, he kind of had a little bit of double standards. He kind of talked about how he respects women that are that have their virginity still, and like that's the type of woman he wants to be with. But, he's, making his way up in the boom boom room. So, like, I never judged him, but I was like, okay, I just don't really know if I want to get involved with that. And also, I am someone who likes to stay far away from drama. So whenever I did not want to deal with Jess, I did not want her to be hateful towards me like she did Jenny. But it just didn't work out at that point, and now we know that both Jess and Jen are not his match. So I don't know. We might see something in the future. We may not.
May see something else.
Know. Yeah, no. Obviously, I know you can only talk about what's been aired so far. Unless you want to give us some, predict or disclose what's going to happen at the end, feel free.
Yeah, if you want, we'll accept it.
Yeah, exactly. So far from what they've shown, what as far as you living in there and going through the challenges of some sort, what do you think has been your biggest challenge in there? What has been the most difficult thing for you throughout this whole process?
The biggest challenge for me was definitely not putting myself down, because I mean, as you can tell, I got picked, except for one matchup, and it kind of made more sense for John to pick Christina anyway. So I tried not to make myself I tried not to be hard on myself, but it definitely was hard to think, why am I here? Like, none of these boys are even wanting to give me that kind of chance. I kind of feel like I'm just floating around. I feel like guys are just like, oh, well, I'm attracted to her, so she could be my match, but then she's a virgin, so I don't know if they would really put me with that. It kind of got really hard, and I just had to keep reminding myself, this is a game. You know, I have to be open to everybody, and you know, just try not to like let it get to you. You know, as you can tell, like there's a lot of drama, and a lot of people don't understand how people can like fall in love so quickly. But when you see each other for 24 hours a day,
right.
like it's not like in everyday life when you can just like go out on a date for like, you know, 2 hours and go home. You literally wake up next to them, you go to the bathroom, and you see them. Like you don't get away from them.
Right.
So it's really easy to get feelings, and it's really easy to like be hard on yourself if something's not going your way.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had Jenny on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she basically said the same thing. It's like you don't really understand when you're watching it how hard it is, you know, and you get involved with these people and you're with them so long, 24 hours a day, like you said. So I commend that. I know I've been a little bit harsh in some of my critiques just because I'm like, you know, fall in love, but then put it on hold to get that money, and then you know, then you know, carry on the relationship. And you know, there's been some people that've been like, oh, you're being too hard, and I'm just thinking of it, but I'm also not in there, so I can only imagine going through that. I do have one final question, and we'll let you go. And again, appreciate you for being on the show. We've been toying.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We've been kind of going back and forth, myself and Kevin, about, you know, these matchups and and how few you're getting. And you know, I watched last season. I don't know if you watched last season, but it seemed like in last season they were, you know, further along as far as like, you know, how many lights they were getting during the matchup ceremony. You know, this is, of course, the 6th episode. There's only 4 more left. We haven't really got into that part, but, you know, there's no matches aside from the 2 that's there. What are you guys thinking at this point? You know, are you thinking like your strategy is off? Are you thinking that your heart is off? Like, what's going on amongst you guys, because you're really not making any progress in that area?
Right. I mean, basically we all were just trying to figure it out with strategy, because as you can tell, you know, like Bree and Curtis, Anthony and Jenny, so many couples that were so invested in each other that found out they weren't matches. You know, it just like, it's basically like everybody just gave up after that. It was like, well, forget love. Let's just party every day and then like try to figure it out, I guess. So it got harder and harder, and we all started getting harder on each other because we're like, play the game. You know, the people that weren't in the house, like Pratt and Paris and Shelby and Curtis, you know, they're looking at it as y'all aren't trying. And it's not that we weren't trying, it's that everybody's heartbroken and everybody's like, well, I already felt for somebody else.
Right.
So how am I supposed to feel this way?
And then try to start over again.
Right. I mean, it's just so much harder when you actually live it than watching it.
Yeah.
Right.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, again, we want to thank you for being on the show. You've been such a great, you know, insight for what's going on with the show. Make sure, can you let the fans know where they can find you on social media?
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at Laura Shaw 93. My name's Lauren Ashley Hall, so that's what that is for.
Okay.
And then my Instagram is MTV_Ashley Hall.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much again, Ashley. And if we need to have you on the show again to kind of give us some insight, will you come back on our show?
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Ashley, you take care. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep that parenting ring.
I will.
Ashley, awesome, right?
Awesome. She's really a class act. You know, that's the kind of girl. You know, they always say, speaking of parents and stuff.
Right.
You always want a girl you can bring home to mama.
Right.
You know, that's the kind of girl that I can bring home to mama.
Oh, absolutely. Grandma, auntie, everybody.
She will come home for Thanksgiving. That's for sure.
I just think I can imagine. You know, and she was talking about the whole virginity thing and the purity ring. It's just in that setting. It just got to be so difficult to kind of, you know, living, you know, kind of making that stance in the midst of all that's going on. Like she said, you're around these people 24 hours, you know, people are doing what they do. They got the boom boom room. They got the room over here that they kind of sneak away to as well. So I applaud her for kind of putting herself in that and kind of staying true to who she was, you know, because that's not easy.
Yeah.
So let's get into, real quick, let's get into the dates. It was Jasmine and John. and they kind of were vibing a little bit. They kind of had a nice little vibe going on. I think they kind of felt, Jasmine, of course, we said she was reeling from not being matched up, but I think she's kind of opening herself up.
Yes.
And John was, he was kind of with it. Both the Alex's talk again. I don't remember hearing the female Alex, voice, so it was good to hear. It was very short, But prior to that, I do want to mention that Leighton and Anthony got into it, and that was huge because they got into it not once but twice this episode. And of course, I think it's definitely derived from, the common denominator is Jenny.
Jenny, yeah.
Because Leighton likes Jenny, Anthony likes Jenny, and it's one of those situations. Leighton and Jenny are not a match, and I think he's still he's not over that. But at the same token, I think he's definitely being a hypocrite because he's sitting up there kind of judging Anthony for what he's doing when he's basically done the same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
And I'm just like, yo, that's not cool. And then to even bring it up again during the matchup ceremony, he was kind of just making mention it, and they start going at it again. And I just at the beginning, I thought Leighton seemed like a cool dude. He's a class act. He seemed like, the way he presented himself in the beginning. And I think his true colors, because of what's going on, and I think maybe the whole experiment is wearing on him. But it's just I think he's just he's showing who he is. Really, I think before we kind of got a front, and I think this is the real Leighton. And I think when he wants what he wants, and he can be a bully at times. And I think he was trying to be a bully to Anthony, and Anthony kind of wasn't standing for it. What do you think?
First of all, I think that Leighton needs to control his temper. I was looking at him getting in the face of Anthony, and I'm like, man, Anthony held his composure,
right?
Because he was all up in his face, and I think that he was just a little bit. I just think he was a little too, for lack of better words, turned up. All right, but at the end of the day, maybe it's not necessarily Anthony that he's really mad at. He's just mad at the fact that he cannot have Jen. And I think maybe that's really where the frustration and the anger is coming from, and he took it out on Anthony. Right. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, Leighton, Anthony is not your competition. Right. Anthony is not your objective. You need to focus on the game and finding love.
Right.
Quit taking it out on Anthony.
Right.
So yeah, I thought it was a huge blow up.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it just wasn't. It wasn't necessary.
Right. And I think too, you have to look at it that this is not real life, in the sense like you're not going to be in a house with 20 people trying to match up in the real world.
Of
course they're sequestered. So I think a lot of what Leighton is doing is he's thinking like, oh, in real life you would be a player and you're trying to get with this girl and you're trying to get with this girl, but at the end of the day, like, that's their job. They have to try to find who their match is, and if they kind of get with anybody, and of course Anthony's having fun, he's kind of taking it to the hills. He's like, sure, I need to match up with somebody, but I'm gonna have fun in the process. So, and I think Leighton sees that, and I think he's trying to call him out as being either a womanizer or just a jerk or whatever the term is, like you would call somebody in real life. But at the end of the day, this is a game.
Yeah.
And he does have to find, until he finds his match, he kind of has to do that. And I think Leighton, just feels some kind of way about that. But I think the common denominator is Jenny, and the fact that he has feelings for Jenny. But,
of course.
It is what it is. So we go to the who gets voted in to find out to the truth booth, and it's John and Jasmine, which they seem to have the biggest connection of the people that are matched up now, and so they get voted in, and they're not a match. So their streak is over. They had like 2 in a row, and then now no match. And then some people are saying that it might have been a wasted match. I mean, I really don't think, like, who else you were going to vote in but them, and I think it's just hindsight is 20/20. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, they weren't a match. So now it's like back to the drawing board. And Curtis, they kind of go over just real quickly to the honeymoon suite where the 2 couples are. And we see that Curtis is there and he's talking with the other couples. And he's basically saying that he left his heart. He left his heart at the house. This is after being, when they come back. So I want to kind of fast forward to the matchup ceremony. They're at the matchup ceremony, and this is where he's saying that. He's saying, the host kind of tells him, they're like, yo, Ryan is like, how do you feel? You're, in the honeymoon suite, are things going well? And he's talking, and he's basically saying, honestly, you know, my heart is left back here in the house. And he's basically talking about Brianna, who is the one that he left behind. And again, it just goes back to, you know, when he was first matched up and he left, and the girl he's matched up with, the fact that, you know, she doesn't really get to enjoy being with him. Because honestly, yeah, they can talk and they can get to know one another, but there's not going to be any type of hookup situation. There's not going to be any type of love connection, because he's saying he's with Brianna. And it's like when he said that, they kind of cut to Brianna on a one-on-one with her, and she's like, I love him. She's in love, you know. And even Ashley was just telling us, like, you know, they fall in love because they're around each other 24/7.
Yes.
And so it's very easy. And then, you know, young, and, you know, and it's just very easy to have those emotions and just really, you know, really go for it, you know. And so when you're not matched, it's like, what do you do now? So we're at the matchup portion, and so it's the women's turn to pick the guys. And so Ashley, our guest, she starts off and she picks Brandon. So, you know, okay, I never seen her talk to him, but, you know, that was her reason.
I know, I was like, that was weird.
Yeah, but you know, what do you do?
It is what it is.
You're trying to find out. Jasmine goes with Nathan. Brianna goes with Dario. Ellie, your girl, she goes with Anthony. And then that's kind of when the whole argument with Leighton and Anthony kind of goes back and forth. You have Tyler with Garland, and then you have Alex with John, and then Jen with Leighton. So Jess is with Alex, and then of course now Christina, who's the 11th girl, she gets to pick she ends up picking Alex. She, you know, has her choice. She picks Alex, and then Nathan actually stays with Jasmine, who is the person that he originally picked. So I thought it was interesting that he didn't pick Christina, because they showed them earlier kind of having a conversation, and they kind of said that they would pick one another.
Yeah.
And so when he decides to not go with Christina, which I'm sure that's why she picked him.
Exactly.
You know, he ends up going with Jasmine, who was original, not Jess, excuse me. It was Jasmine who was original pick. I thought it was interesting. And he said the reason was he wanted to teach her a lesson. So I was like, I don't know, man. I think that's kind of messed up, but, you know, it is what it is. Of course, you know, it's time for the light ceremony. 2 lights go up and no more. So literally, they matched up with all different people, and they got zero. Goose egg, which happened twice now.
Yes.
Last time they only got 1, but then before that it was a goose egg. So they're literally back to square one.
Yep.
They have 2 confirmed matches, and they're just kind of all over the place. And they only have 4 more tries to get this done. And I thought it was really interesting because the host, Ryan, kind of gives them a speech. Kind of a pep talk, but I'm looking at his eyes and he looks kind of emotional, like they kind of gloss over. And I think he's like, you know, he's invested. He's the host, you know, he's with them the whole time that they're there. And he's like, Luke, get yourself together. You guys only have 4 more tries. Whatever you're doing, it's not working. Get your life. You got to match up these people. You know, whatever you got to do, get your head in the game, because you only have 4 more tries and you guys are literally at square one. So I thought it was interesting because I'd never really seen him other than asking questions about kind of drama that happens in the house to kind of, you know, do that. So I thought that was interesting that he did that. And I think it was just, he was frustrated because these people aren't getting it. Something is not clicking with the group. They're just not getting it. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think, you know, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week. You know, they're letting their emotions get in the way. Right. They're allowing to be led by their heart versus their brain. And, you know, it's unfortunate. I mean, I can, you know, I can't say I can relate because, you know, well, actually I have been in a situation like that before, but that's neither here nor there. But the thing is that, you know, you can kind of understand what they're going through, because that is a tough environment to be in. Right. You know, sequestered in a house with 20 others, trying to find love and things of that sort and play the game and be, you know, I mean, that would confuse anybody's mental. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just want to see them be able to start, like somebody, I think what happens is somebody in the house just kind of has to take leadership.
Yes,
somebody has to take leadership in here and be like, look, guys, I know we're having a good time.
Get a game plan.
I know we're establishing, but someone needs to be the Phil Jackson in there. Right. All right.
And coach them.
And coach them.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Absolutely.
You know, and I know it's easier said than done. Right. But from this point on out, you only have 4 more weeks. Before, I wouldn't have said that. But at this point,
there needs to be some direction.
Has to come in and do the job.
Absolutely. So that's a good segue. Let's go ahead and get into predictions. Let's do that.
Predictions.
Whoa, that was like a mashup of like the news and predictions like all at once.
This is your producer. I hit 2 buttons at once.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
My bad.
Shout out to our producer. He's holding it down. It's all good. So we'll just go into it. So predictions. Give me your predictions going into next week.
My predictions are next week at the ceremony, there will be 5 lights that go up. 2 that are already up.
Okay, so 3 new lights.
So there will be 3 new lights.
Okay.
Something is going to start to click.
Okay.
You're going to see it because that little pep talk from Ryan and someone else is going to inspire them.
Right.
So my guess is 5 lights.
Okay.
5
Interesting.
lights.
Interesting. I want to say I'm actually gonna. I think that's a good prediction. I can't say any more than that because I just can't see them at this level doing that.
Of course, yeah.
So I think definitely with that pep talk, I agree with you. I think they have it in them to at least get 3 lights, new lights into the next ceremony, and then kind of build from there.
Yeah.
But I think again, what you were saying is great. I think someone is going to have to Phil Jackson them and kind of take control and like, look, okay, let's kind of look at this. Let's look at what we've done so far. Now let's look at where we're going and kind of see, get with the matchups, see what they did, because obviously they were interviewed. They know the questions that were asked of them, just kind of put that into perspective. So
exactly.
I think if they do that, they can get some more lights and we'll see what happens. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was our show. We want to thank you for tuning in. We want to give a special shout out to Ashley Hall for being our guest. And also today is Veterans Day. We're going to give a shout out to all of our veterans. I am also a veteran, so I want to thank you, and I'm glad that we have a day. So I am, again, your host, Lem Gonsalves. You can find me at The Poet Saint, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Mr. Kevin John, where can they find you?
Speaking of shout outs, I want to give a shout out to Andrew Kirk at CSUA Kirk.
Yes.
He's always watching and
he watched us live.
He watched us live. So
Yeah.
thank you, Andrew, for tuning in. I'm Kevin John. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HeyKevinJohn or on my website, www.itskevinjohn.com.
Awesome. Thank you guys. See you next week.
God bless. Salute.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.